time now for the market analysis on Trading Bell. Joining me is Harrison Gitau from Apex Africa to shed some light on the numbers that we have this week. Welcome, Harrison.
Thank you very much.
Let's begin now with our gainers, and we've seen quite a few of them, which you said were unexpected.
Yeah. The gainers for this week are coming from a very low base last week. The likes of BOC and the other gainers that are actually in the market, they're coming from prices that were quite close to their 52-week lows. And we have seen some speculative market entries into the counters, which has led them to close as the week's gainers.
Okay,
yeah.
So those were, of course, we had BOC Kenya Limited, Liberty Kenya Holdings, and more. But now let's look at the top losers. Surprisingly, we're seeing Kenya Airways Limited up there, and it's gone down about 11.74%.
Yeah.
Now, we have seen that they've reduced the number of flights, the direct flight from Kenya to the US, and they say that's because of low demand during winter. So it's going to carry on up until March, these reduced number of flights. Do you think that's what we can attribute to this?
Yeah, I think that is what has been attributed to the decline in the market. Once they announced the daily direct flights to and fro the US, there was a lot of market activity. There were a lot of expectations, especially on the top line, to what those flights actually mean for the firm. But now that they've said they're looking at cutting back, which is quite, I think, a good strategy, because it doesn't add value to run flights that have very low cabin factors. But I think that announcement has sort of led to a market correction.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you know, we had seen that when they did launch that flight, there was a lot of speculation and a lot of expectation from the fact that this flight would increase exports and it would ease all of that, all of those processes, help the economy. From your perspective, you know, how prudent is it to look at that with that much optimism?
I think it's quite prudent. I think the biggest source of revenue for KQ is actually passengers and not cargo. So once the passenger side is not as high as they had anticipated, I think it's still wise to cut back and sort of grow demand. They're talking of partnering with some local flights over there just to try and raise awareness and raise interest of passengers coming this way.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. One of the other losers we see here, EA Portland Cement Company Limited, and it's gone down actually by 9.59%.
Yeah, I think that comes as a result of the recently announced decline in month-on-month cement consumption. Month-on-month cement fell by about 5 million tons in the country. So it's quite negative for cement makers in the country, and that is reflected mainly in Portland.
All right,
yeah.
So those are our top gainers and losers. But now let's look at the NSE performance there. The NSE 20 share index seemed to have had a minimal increase of 0.01%, but the NSE 25 share index also had one of 0.13%. These gains, very significant?
I think they're quite significant. It's sort of a small reprieve in a time where we are talking about the NSE 25 actually falling by about 24% year to date. I think the slight uptick is quite positive, and we are attributing it to increased local activity.
Okay, so in a return of investor confidence then?
Yeah, some sort of return.
Okay.
Not so much, but still there.
We're getting there, I guess.
Yeah.
And now finally the top movers of the week. We've seen Safaricom Limited, of course. The volume is quite massive there.
Yeah. For Safaricom is no surprise. It's actually the market, usually the market leader, but we've seen some increased interest, mainly with the announcement of the partnership with Western Union, and seeing that actually diaspora remittances come to about the third largest contributor of our forex exchange, forex income. I think that's quite positive for Safaricom.
All right, and I mean, they do have 29.6 million customers, so clearly it's reflective of those numbers as well. But another one of our top movers here is Barclays Bank. Yeah,
for Barclays, I think it's in anticipation of their 9 months numbers to be announced soon.
Okay.
Maybe I don't want to read too much into the volumes. The volumes are not quite huge, but I think it's a market, sort of a few investors aligning themselves.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Thank you so much for that,
Thank you
Harrison.
very much.
With that market analysis, and now we're going to go into Markets 101. Well, now it's time for our question on the street, something that you want to know about the NSE, the Securities Exchange, or anything finance related. Let's have that.
My name is Joe Mshiri. My question is, should I be investing in a hedge fund? And what is a hedge fund?
Thank you very much for the question. Thank you actually for raising interest in hedge funds. Hedge funds are basically funds that mainly are mandated to invest in very risky ventures. They like the high risk because of the high return, and whether or not you should invest in them depends on your risk appetite. If you are a risk seeker, you can go for them. If you are risk averse, which most investors are, ideally you should avoid them. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Harrison, for clearing that up for us. And now it's time for the NSE Historical Fact.